Hello there, and welcome to a special episode of Conversations About Conversations. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 lessons from 10,000 conversations. Before I do that, let me talk about where this came from. So in 2016, I decided I would write a book. And the way I decided I would do it was I got up every morning for the first 100 days of 2016 and wrote for either 500 words or a half an hour. So 500 words or half an hour. And at the end of 100 days, I figured I'd have the framework for a book. But what I actually learned as I went through the process of turning those 100 separate essays or different stories was that all I had was a pile of bricks. I didn't have a framework. So from there, I went ahead and hired a writing coach. And by that fall, so I took the bricks and I kind of put them in different piles. They kept falling apart. But by that fall, I was talking to my writing coach and she said, I have bad news for you. You are going to need to start over. So I did. I started over. I created a framework. And out of that framework, I'm happy to share with you today is the 10 lessons from 10,000 conversations. So are you ready? Lesson 1, build rapport. The level of rapport impacts the effectiveness of every one of your conversations. It goes a long way to determining their outcomes. Conversations are easier when rapport is present and are more difficult when rapport is missing. So how you know if you have rapport with someone or not is because the conversation is easy. And vice versa. How you know that you don't have rapport is because the conversation is difficult. There's a reason rapport is lesson 1, because it is the floor for the house. Lesson 2, use questions skillfully. Questions can be used to guide your conversations. In fact, they are the best way to guide your conversations. They pave the path toward helping your clients understand their needs and helping you then discover ways to address their needs. But, and this is a big but I'm amusing myself like a teenager. To be effective using questions, you must use the right type of question at the right time. Lesson 3, listen. Listening is more important than talking. Listening is most impactful when it is done actively with intention and purpose. The better you listen, the better you'll be in creating powerful connections with your clients. In fact, I can't think of how I would create powerful connections. I might impress them. I might say something that's impressive, but where I get truly connected to my clients and that they feel that I'm connected to them is the way I listen. I'm not a perfect listener, by the way, but I do realize the importance of it. Lesson 4, focus on needs. Needs-based conversations result in positive outcomes. They help your clients see you as an ally and as someone who cares about them on a deeper level, beyond the normal expectations they have for a business relationship. What's the contrast to needs-based conversations? Topics-based conversations. Most conversations have a topic. They get lost in topics. They're up here. They're on the topics. They're not underneath the water, looking at the iceberg, let alone underneath the iceberg, underneath the water. Lesson 5, exercise self-control. Oh my goodness, do people lack self-control? So it's hard to build rapport. It's hard to use questions skillfully. It's hard to listen. It's hard to focus on needs when you lack self-control. You can't control others, but you can control yourself. Most of us. The reality is, though, you can't control another person. You can only control yourself. Before you can competently manage a conversation, you must be disciplined and self-aware. Lesson 6, prepare and plan. Conversations work better when you're prepared. When you have a plan and a structure to follow, you put yourself in a position to effectively manage and lead a conversation. Lesson 7, create. How a conversation starts matters. Engaging in a consultative needs-based conversation means discovering what your clients are seeking to accomplish and encouraging full participation. It's a little bit like if you're in a swimming pool and you're going to race somebody and they're standing by the wall and they get a good push off the wall and you're in the middle of the pool, so you have a head start, but you can't really move fast. Well, if you don't create a conversation in a way that helps you, it's like not being near the wall to get a push off the wall. Lesson 8, explore. In order to get an understanding of your client's needs beyond a superficial level, you must probe for understanding. The more depth you achieve, the stronger your relationships become. Lesson 9, address. Speak to your client's needs and objections. I've chosen the word address versus the word answer for questions because address literally means speak to, and it creates a little bit more of a sophisticated and kind of fancy tone for what you're doing, but you really are addressing your client's needs and objections. You're presenting ways to meet and satisfy their needs. It also, you're not just focused on needs, you're focused on objections, because handling objections is actually part of satisfying and addressing people's needs. You're taking responsibility for helping them. And, drum roll please, lesson number 10, this is where all the marbles are responsible for. Gain agreement for action. This is where a conversation is headed. If a conversation doesn't have action as a result of it, was the conversation worthwhile? I believe yes. I believe that there's some agreement. I don't mean like you have to close business or you have to get agreement for a referral. I'm saying there's an agreement to reconvene at a future time and place that will forward the relationship. Your goal is to problem solve and find solutions to satisfy your client's needs. I also call gain agreement for action resolve. And if you think about it, the word resolve has both re and solve, like you're re-solving things. You're adding value in an ongoing fashion as a relationship manager because you're re-solving problems. You must gain agreement for action because the measure of a conversation, in my world, is determined by the specific results it produces. So 10 lessons: build rapport, use questions skillfully, listen, focus on needs, exercise self-control, prepare and plan, create, explore, address, gain agreement for action. Those are my 10 lessons for today. Thank you for being a part of this episode. To come back to the initial story I told about putting the house together. So once I then had this outline by the fall of 2016, I was able then to rewrite the book. And I guess the analogy I want to draw here is once you have a framework for your conversations, you can rewrite your conversations. And ultimately, if you rewrite your conversations, you can rewrite your relationships, because your relationships are your conversations and your conversations are your relationships. Thank you again for participating. Let me know how I can be of service to you.